Okay, welcome back. We're going to be going through using Ardour now. I do have my new project opened up here. A few different things you'll see we have up at the top here, meter 4/4. So we can change these if we want to in the project. If we want to change this from 4/4 to a different time signature, we could do that. I'm going to leave it as is. We can also change the tempo of the project, and you can update this at any point in time, but I would highly suggest doing this before you actually track any audio. So let's get started with adding some instruments, just some virtual instruments. So the way to do that, we'll right click on the playlist here under master, and it'll allow us to add a new track or bus. We want to add a MIDI track, so we'll select MIDI tracks, and then we'll select the instrument we want to use from this menu here. You don't necessarily have to do this right away, but it makes it a little easier just to select the instrument from the get-go. So let's select the instrument we want to use. I want to use something that's going to give us some drum sounds. Generally, if I were, working with my own music, I'd probably use a Linux sampler because I generally use drum samples. But let's actually use this Fabla. I kind of like this plugin, so let's use it for a little more electronic drum sound. We'll click add. And we've added that new MIDI channel. One of the things with Ardour that's a little bit different than other workstations that I've used is that there is no piano editor. So if you want to edit notes, you actually do all of that right within the timeline. And I actually really like that it's all kind of rolled together into one. If you resize this MIDI track, you'll notice that we actually get a keyboard and we can edit the notes here. So it's pretty cool. So before we do any of that, let's take a look at the plugin itself. Let's take a look at the UI that it provides. So I'll right click on the plugin, go down to edit, and then sorry, that opened up on my other monitor. Let me pull that down. You'll notice we don't have any samples loaded in here. We do have some presets available for us, so we can select those. I'm going to use the 808. So you should be able to hear those. They're pretty loud. Let me turn that down just a little bit. Looks like we did peak there. So let me turn it down so we don't have any clipping issues. All right. That should have us taken care of. Let's hold on here. Let me just grab that again. Okay. So we have all of these different drum sounds available within this plugin that we can use, and we can program this into our song. So let's create a drum beat. I'm going to close out of this UI now that we see everything is working. We see all the pads here. And let's take a look at where these sounds are going to be located on the keyboard. If you click around on these keys here, you should be able to audition and hear what each of them is. And it looks like we're on the upper end here because we're just getting that top almost rim click sound. So let's move this entire view down about an octave. See what we got. Hey, we're getting other things now. Nice. So we found our bass. I like this. This long one's kind of nice for certain applications. I'm going to use this shorter one though for what I'm doing here. So that looks like it's a C sharp or a C sharp 2. So let's go ahead and start editing and adding notes in. We'll do that by clicking up here at the top. You'll notice we have this little finger icon selected. That means we're in grab or select mode. What we want to be doing is editing. So we need to get into draw or edit mode. So let's draw a note. There we go. We've got a note. And let's go ahead and add one on both 1 and 3. And then let's take a look. We got some different claps, snares. Let's go with the clap. We'll just clap on 2 and 4. Very basic. And then let's actually set up just a loop. So we see up here at the top we've got loop punch ranges. Let's loop through this new loop range. can drag this to this end, drag this to this end here, and then let's play through it. Another thing that you'll note is that, excuse me, is that you'll need to make sure this is set to disk. If you set this to in, it's not going to play. It's actually looking for an input or something from, a signal from either your MIDI keyboard or from here. So make sure that's on disk if you're playing it back. So once you have everything recorded, everything edited, click disk, and it'll play that back. Let's do a little bit more with our drum beat here. Let's say I want the kick on both the 1 and 3, but also the 2 and 4, give it a little more power. Maybe along with the clap, I would like to have just on 4 a snare sound. Now, you'll notice that we're snapped right now to each beat. We can actually change that. Right now, the grid snapping is set to beats. We can set that to half beats if we want. Quarter beats is probably enough for most people. So let's do that. Let's throw one of these in there, make it a little interesting. Now, if you hover over these notes, you'll also notice that you get a little bit of information about it, what note it is, and then also it has a little VEL, that's the velocity of the note. You can change that velocity just by hovering over and then using your mouse wheel to scroll down. So let's say I want to make this a little quieter. Let's make this one 50 so it's not so loud. So we got 50, and then you'll select each one. Alternatively, you could really just box select these. So let me show you what that would be like. So I just went to internal edit mode there. Lets me do some different things. Select both of these, and let's turn the velocity down to 50. So those are all uniform now. Back to draw mode, and let's say that's just what I want with my drum beat, so we're good there. At this point, if we want to, we can resize this channel back down, and let's go ahead and I'm going to stop this. I'm going to remove my loop range, and then I'm actually going to go back into this grab selection mode and right click on my MIDI track. Now I can go into this MIDI 1 option here and allow me to duplicate this if I want to. I'm going to multiple duplicate this, and let's just go. How many, it's going to be a matter of how many more measures do I want that to run other than what I just have there. So I'm actually going to go with 11, so I'll have a total of 12. There we go, and that's a very easy way to duplicate multiple times. Of course, you can also do regular keyboard shortcuts that you're used to, such as a copy or cut and paste. Very easy to do, but just wanted to demonstrate how easy it can be to duplicate multiple like that. Okay, so we have our drum beat. If we go back to the beginning, you can see that's playing through. And at this point, we're ready to add maybe a bass synthesizer. So let's stop. I'm going to back it up to the beginning. You can also, if you prefer to use keyboard shortcuts, if you hit the home key, it'll always take you back to the beginning of the project. All right, let's add a new instrument. Before I do that, I'm going to hit a Control S, save the project. Right click, we'll add a new instrument. That's going to be with the new instrument, excuse me, new track menu. So we'll go to MIDI Tracks, same as we did before. Click Add. We got a new track, brand new track here. It's selected. We're ready to go. And we can really just make this one pretty small, just make those smaller. We don't need to mess with those right now. If we do, we can always expand them and do everything we need to. It's pretty cool. I like it. So let's go into this second MIDI track. But before we do, let's rename this one because it is our drums. And we may as well name it, and then we'll know. Okay, where's that option? Okay, we'll double click on here then and rename this as drums. Very good. We got our drums track going on there. Let's call this one bass before we even get started. Notice that I did not select the instrument that I wanted to use, so this one is actually defaulted to the last instrument I selected. So we need to change this. I wanted to do that specifically so I could show you how to do that. Let's right click on this instrument, and I'm actually going to delete it. So now we have no instrument defined here. Let's define an instrument. We'll go right click, new plugin, and we want to go by category. So under category, we want to go to instrument, and it's going to have all of our different instruments here. And I want something that's going to work really well as a bass. I don't know if we have something specifically that's bass here. Let's just take a look, see what we've got. Looks like we've got some different pianos, different keyboards. Let's just try going for kind of a bass synth. Let's go with this Vex, see what we can do with that. And just as before with the Fabula, we'll right click on Vex. We'll go down in this menu to edit. And here we have Vex. So you can see this is kind of a multiple oscillator sort of plugin. Probably something that I would end up using for a bass. So let's just take a quick listen to how that sounds, and to do that I'm actually at this point going to select an input here, and I'm going to select my MPK mini keyboard that I have, so I can just play around with this sound. And let's go down a little bit. See, that's a pretty good bass sound, so nice round tone. Let's go ahead and record something, or at least play through a few times and try some different things. Let's go back home. Let's try. Okay, let's do something like that. So I'm going to stop. And we'll go back to the beginning of the project, and let's actually record this one. So you can arm any track by clicking on this little button here. You can click it over here as well. And then you need to click the toggle record option here at the top. And when you click play, you'll be recording the input of this MIDI instrument. So let's do that. Okay, that looks pretty good. However, I did make some mistakes there, so it's a good opportunity to show how you can clean this up. So let's do that. I'm going to actually zoom out a little bit this way, and then focus in a little bit more on the notes that we're actually working with here. Okay. And we'll make this just a little bit larger so we can more easily edit it. First thing I want to do is shorten this up because we want this to start at 1. Okay, so we can do that. We can move that back to to the first measure. And then I messed up here. I hit the wrong note. we want to move that down to the correct spot. So let's grab this note with our handy edit mode and drag it down. I also had some timing issues in there. If you want to, you can go through and get really particular with it, move everything around. Or I believe you can also do a quantize with it if you'd like to. And I'm not entirely sure with that. I don't use it very much because I do like to have a little bit of a natural feel to these instruments, as if a human being was playing them. So let's call this my pattern. Let's say it's good to go. It's not perfect, but it's going to work. Let's make this a little bit smaller. And now I can duplicate this a few times. I'm going to, this time, go with a Control-C and Control-V. So I've essentially copied and pasted the pattern. And let's move it down here. And you'll notice also now that we need a few more of these. So what I can do, again with this, is just go in and multiple duplicate. And I just need 4 more, so I'll type 4, hit enter, and we're good to go. So if I go back to the beginning, and of course we want to disarm this track, we want to set it to disk so we can hear that. Okay, and that looks pretty good. That's going to work just fine for me. One thing I did notice, and let's just go into this specific track here. Let me make this bigger. That first note is not firing, so we need to make sure that that is indeed happening. We'll edit this note. I'm just going to drag it back and then back here, so we should be able to hear it now. Still not hearing it. Okay, and the length, the time, let's go with zeros here. Okay, never mind that, we'll go in, snap it there. I'm not sure why that's not playing, but anyway, you can go in and modify these notes. There it is. Perfect. That sounds very good, and I believe, since I just copied that, yep, it changed with this one as well. So it's a good way of just changing your patterns. I'll stop this. We'll minimize this bass track because we're done with it for right now. Let's hit a Control-S, save the project once more, and let's record some audio. So let me, real quickly here, grab a guitar, and we'll get started on that. Okay, now I have a very short cable plugged into my channel 2 in my audio interface. I just plugged that into my guitar as well. So let's hook that up here. Let's get everything going. Right click, we want to add a new track. Excuse me, this time instead of MIDI, we want to use an audio track. So audio, we want this to be a mono track because we only do have one input. We don't have stereo inputs from the guitar. That's just the way the guitar is made. That'd be the same thing for most microphones. So most times you're going to be recording in mono unless you have something before your process coming into the software here. So we'll go with mono, select normal, everything's good, and we'll just click add. Now, by default, you can see that it actually, and it probably made my voice louder, but it actually selected my input 1. You can change the input up here, just as we did with the MIDI channels. So we'll change that to input 2. Guitar, okay. Wonderful, so we have guitar now. But you may notice that it sounds a little bit, just a little bit basic. There's not a whole lot going on with it. A few different things we can do here. Ahead of the fader, we could actually input some different plugins if we want to, different effects, and then just have those going in, kind of set it up how we want to. Another thing, and something I like to do, is use the Claudio launcher, which I discussed briefly before, and then actually pull up one of these standalone effects. I like to use this Guitarix. It's a great guitar amp modeler. So you go in here, and I believe I already have input 2 set as the one to use. I've got some different presets here. My clean channel just kind of sounds like an amp. One thing that I never really want to do is enable reverb on an input. It sounds nice, but at the same time, it's better to take care of all that reverb and everything post-recording. So I wouldn't necessarily add that beforehand, or you're stuck with it. If you need to match to a certain room or certain sound that you're getting with other samples, other instruments, I would say leave the reverb off. Okay, so we have that now. We need to make sure that it's coming into our audio channel here. So how do we do that? We don't really see anything available to us here. Let's go into this routing grid. All right, so we've got our system audio here, capture 1, capture 2. That's where our input's coming from. Let's disable that, and let's take a look at other. Now, from other, we've got this GX head effects. That's going to be our Guitarix that we're using. So let's just give the left and the right channel into this audio in. So this is an instance where you may want to use a stereo input instead of a mono like I've set up, but I'm just going to send both the left and right channels into that mono input. I think it'll be okay. So now it's coming through our, now it's actually coming through with the amp effects that I was talking about. So let me close out of this. And we're ready at this point to try a few different things with the guitar, see what we like best, and then maybe do a recording. So if you're not really sure, if you don't already have a song written, you can play around a little bit, press the play button, and just kind of just have fun with it. So I'll go back, hit the home key, and let's record some audio. So it's going to be the same process as with MIDI. We can hit this button, we can hit this one here. Either one will arm the track, and then let's toggle recording mode and click play. So that's pretty good. We'll stop it there. And let's go ahead at this point in time, go back into our grab mode. Just shore this up. And let's make that basically a loop that we can keep using. So do it there. And let's copy and paste this. So if we go back to the beginning and we play through. Oh, excuse me, we need to disarm the track, select disk. Always remember to do that. Now, once you have have everything kind of set up in your track, you may want to go in and do some mixing. You can definitely do that. One of the other main windows of Ardour is the mixer. If you don't see this window available to you, what you can do, let me just close it. Let me save too. What you can do is just go into Window, click Mixer, and then there it is. So this is basically, it gives you your inserts as mixer tracks instead of having them being displayed vertically as actual tracks on a playlist. So this is really the window that you'd use more when you're actually going into mixing things, adding in effects, and processing everything. Before I do that, though, I generally go through these audio tracks and just adjust the levels a little bit. And here's how I would do that. I would go into this internal edit mode, and you'll notice right away that we get kind of an envelope here on the track that we can adjust the volume. So actually I'm gonna, while I'm doing this, just because I didn't do it with this one, or I didn't do it with both, I'm gonna delete this one, just completely remove that, and then I'm gonna move this one back to here, and then we'll work on this one and we'll duplicate once we have all that audio level work done. So we'll go in here and let's do some editing on this thing. And I'm going to do that by going in. One thing I noticed when I was playing through is that when I went to the low E, I did have, excuse me, when I went to the low E, I did have kind of an increase in audio here. And you can actually see that if you look. So let's correct that first. And for some reason we're not, there we go. Yep, there we go. We can add another one in, and let's add another here. Before I do that though, we want to go to right about here. And add this one in. Add a few more in between, and I can just bring those down a little bit. All right, so I'll bring this down just a little bit on each one, add a few more points in here, and then that'll help us out a little bit where it did spike up just a little. So pull this over this way. And then we can get going on this. All right, so let's take a listen to that. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so that might be exactly what I want to do there. At this point, I could stop this, and then we can come out of this and then take this. Oop, I want to do that. And then take this track here. Just take the whole thing. Copy and paste, and then move it over here. So we're good. We have those saved in there. Do that, and then we can go in and do any processing if we want to with effects. But it's a pretty general idea of how you use this software. Hopefully you found some value in it. So if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me. This is my email address here. You can also check out the website, wesleysinks.com, or check out Wesley Sinks Music on Facebook if you want to get some regular updates. I do also have a newsletter, so if you go to wesleysinks.com, just sign up for that newsletter. You will get regular updates by email as more content's available. I look forward to sharing a little bit more with you in the way of using Linux for audio, and also my upcoming release that I'm working on for January. I look forward to speaking with you guys again soon. Thanks.